In a previous video blog, I defined love as meaning to act in someone's best interest and began to develop that concept. And I also began to start explaining how I came to that definition. In this one, I'm going to further develop that definition a little bit. I think there are 10 absolutes of love, kind of like a top 10 list of acts of love. Whatever else can be said about love, love will always meet every one of these 10 absolutes. Now, let the cat out of the bag a little bit for you. They're based on the 10 Commandments out of the Old Testament of the Bible. But I want you to hear me out on this. Stay with me. Instead of thinking about them as 10 Commandments, like they're some out-of-date, overly restrictive code, let's look at more of what they mean in application and how each one of them describes actions that are in our best interest. Let's think of how we feel when other people follow these 10 absolutes of love. So I've written them down in my journal here, so let me just read you this top 10 list. 1. Do not put any person or thing above God. God's place in your life must be preeminent. Now let's think about it from the reverse side. No person can stand up under the pressure of perfection and the weight of the burdens that you would ask them to bear if you put them number one in your life. And if anybody put you number one in their life, you'd fail them miserably too. So we're trying to avoid guaranteed failure and disappointment in a relationship by keeping humans out of the number one position in all of our lives. And after you figure out, kind of almost like disqualification, well, what could be number one? What's big enough to be number one? There's only one thing big enough to hold up, and that's God. Second, the second absolute of love. In addition to making God preeminent, do not devote yourself to any person or thing as you do to God. Same kind of concept. There's no person, there's no relationship, no family, no spouse, no kids, no thing, no house, no car, no corner office career, no retirement account. Nothing can be to you what God can be to you. And if you try to put something there, if you devote yourself to those things, then you've totally screwed up the priorities in your life, and you've guaranteed yourself disappointment. Disappointment is not in your best interest. It's just that simple. Number 3, do not misuse the name of God. It's kind of like putting your money where your mouth is. If nothing else is as good as God, nothing can be in that number one place in your life, then when you put God there, act like He's there, and act like it with your tongue, act like it with your mouth. The fact of the matter is, when you get used to talking about someone with respect that's in a particular position, it's easier to also respect someone that you love that's in the position of love, especially your spouse, your significant other, and them for you. You don't want somebody misusing your name. Rule number 4, absolute rule of love. This applies to ourselves. This is kind of how to love yourself. Work up to, but no more than 6 days out of the week. That's about you. It's not about somebody else. That's a rule for you. It helps keep you. I mean, you're boring if you work 7 days a week, frankly. Develop other interests. Spend time with other people, with developing relationships. You can't do that if you're working 7 days a week. Your body needs rest. My body needs rest, certainly my mind. All right. Absolute rule number 5. Treat your father and mother with respect for their position. Now, I think that rule, in a broader sense, is about identifying people who are in positions of respect and respecting them because of the position that they're in. For example, give another example of that. The President of the United States. I may or may not like the person who is president at any point in time or in some of their policies, but yet I have to respect them because that's their position. Sometimes my wife and I will have a fuss, and we will, instead of calling each other by our names or by terms of endearment, we'll say to each other, now husband or now wife, and that is a deliberate communication that, look, you got a position, and normally you have a responsibility that comes with it, so get to it. But still, it's a respect for the position. And it's, hey, look, at the same time, it's, hey, I'm your wife. Hey, I'm your husband. I have this position. So I'm talking to you in your position, not just person to person. You got to know that. That's easily in your best interest for people to treat you in the position that you're in, as well as for you to treat the position that they're in. Number 6, this is just straightforward. Do not murder. If you think anybody murdered you, they'd love you? No. Not murdering is easily understood to be an act in your best interest. This includes, of course, murdering yourself. You've got to start with knowing how to accurately love yourself. Rule number 7, do not commit adultery. Again, we're respecting positions. This time we're talking about the position of marriage, not just your own position if you're married. But think about it. I mean, if you're married, do you want your spouse committing adultery on you? No, you don't. It's not in your best interest. So it's not in your best interest. It's not in their best interest for you to do it. So don't. Number 8, do not steal. That's pretty simple, absolute. Nice rule of love there, respecting other people's property. You don't want to be around. You don't want to have your property stolen. That wouldn't be an act of love. You would not interpret that as an act of love. It wouldn't make you feel loved. I wouldn't feel loved. So don't do it. And you don't want it done to yourself. Number 9 is the really difficult one, I think, of all the 10. 9 and 10 are the doozies. 9 is do not lie. Now, how's that connected to love? I think it has to do with dependability, in part. I mean, if you don't want to be around somebody that you know is a liar, or is potentially, or could lie, or would lie in the right situation, because you're always having to kind of watch your back a little bit around them. Well, it's not love if you're having to watch your back and protect yourself and pull your guard up all the time. Nor would it be if you were the one lying and they felt that way about you. Lying is not loving. Nothing about lying is loving. Love never lies. How about that? Love never lies. Doesn't have to tell, brutal honesty. There can be appropriate courtesies provided, but it's not going to be a lie. Rule number 10, do not covet what others have. This is something you have to think through a little bit too. Covet. When you covet something, you're focused on it. I mean, you're really focused on it. That car, that house, that career, that attractive spouse, that whatever. But if you're looking at that, you're not paying attention to the object of your love. And if you're the one that's being the object of love, you don't want somebody focused all over the place and looking at everything but you and your relationship. That's not love. That's not in your best interest. Well, it's not in their best interest for you to be all looking around everywhere else too. Stay focused on the love relationship. Love is focused. I think that's what that means. When you're not coveting what others have, it gives you the ability to focus. Love is focused. Now, I think if you want to know whether someone is loving you, I think you can run your actions through those 10 absolutes and see whether or not they meet them, because love is going to always meet every single one of those. That's not going to hit 9, 9.5. It's going to hit all 10. And then if you're interested in this topic, just keep an eye on my video blog, because I'll have a lot more thoughts on the authentic definition of love and what that looks like in real life. Till next time.